Good morning from the Imperial Corps. My name is Prosper Short for We All Can Prosper, and on this balmy Tuesday morning, 85 degrees and rising, I would like to say to you a good hello. This is meant to be an introduction to me, to give you an idea of who I am, along with allowing me to scream into the void. That void being a vast repository of information and ideas that we all seem to be willing to make accessible to each other via the interwebs. Lots of crazy stuff being said on here, and I would like to go ahead and lend my voice. Hopefully, something a little bit more realistic and grounded, but we will see. Just to give you a little bit of context to where we are in this day, uh, presidential nominee for the Democratic Party, Vice President Kamala Harris, has announced her vice presidential running mate as Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Really don't know too much about him. We can talk about responses to George Floyd issues, but I think that would be better left for another time and place. On the other side, we have former President uh, Donald Trump and his vice presidential running mate, Mr. J.D. Vance. Actually, I guess he's a senator, at least for a short while. Currently in the process of going through his book, Hillbilly Elegy, and that might be the first real thing I talk about outside of myself and the general status of this country. But politics aside, let's get back to it, because this country is busted, and I say it seriously. I also want to let you know that it is okay. We have been constantly lied to preserve this all, and accepting that fact, seeing the world for what it really is step one. From my perspective, someone born and predominantly raised in this country, with lineages through what some would call foundational Black Americans on one side, with our most recent generation still having a history of Southern living, this place seems to just have a hold on us. Myself, partially a product of old Vietnam. For those that don't know, that's Fayetteville or Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Hold up. It is now Fort Liberty. Fort Liberty, North Carolina. Known for the area known for college basketball, J. Cole, and during my adolescence, a black man, James Byrd Jr., murdered by three white men after chaining him to their truck and dragging him behind it. Not much seems to or feels to have honestly changed on certain days in some instances. Ahmaud Arbery, among others, are signals of some of our true troubles here. But this isn't what I want to talk about. It's just a fact of our society that's been littered throughout my life and all of ours. But again, back to the introduction and some ancestry stuff. I need to plead for just a little bit of patience here as I've been fully Americanized. As a son of the South, with most of my adolescence being in West Central Louisiana. Go Red Devils. My other lineage weaves its way through the islands of the Caribbean. I have many fond memories of visiting family there, whether St. Thomas, St. Martin, Anguilla, or Dominica. And if some of these DNA databases are to be believed, my blended littles, unbeknownst to the majority of my family, may lean a little bit more than half Irish. Again, looking at me. But again, this stuff is a part of our and my daily life. And race, or more specifically, the construct of race, will be interspersed throughout all of this until it stops being important as a differentiator in the empire. Segue to definitions, definition time, definition time. Uh, Sorry for that. There should be an increase in production values going forward, and this video will hopefully get a retouch. So, twice at least I've mentioned the word empire, and you may or may not know it, but we are one, and definitions are important. So we can all be on the same page, and when we are discussing critical topics, make sure we're doing it through the same lens with a true understanding of what is at stake. The general plan is to pull appropriate definitions and context from Merriam-Webster, just for now. And if there's any changes to that, I'll try to identify anything out of the norm. But first up, empire. A major political unit having a territory of great extent or a number of territories or peoples under a single sovereign authority. The territory of such a political unit, something resembling a political empire. So, part one, I think, should remove any questions as to if we are an empire. But shout out to Daniel Imawar, hoping I pronounced that correctly. How to Hide an Empire was a great listen and helped kickstart my re-radicalization. And that brings us to our second definition. Radical. Very different from the usual or extreme. Traditional. Sorry about that. Very different from the usual or traditional. Extreme. Favoring extreme changes in existing views, habits, conditions, or institutions. Associated with political views, practices, and policies of extreme change. Advocating extreme measures to retain or restore a political state of affairs. And when I say I'm a radical, I'm saying that I advocate for quality housing, healthcare, healthy food, and clean water as basic human rights. And it should be easy to employ that at home and globally if we could just put some serious adults together to start to fix the majority of the world's woes. But the US and most other states aren't about that life. We aren't a serious country when it comes to providing a chance to even achieve the so-called American dream. And this is not the time to try to define what that is. Maybe you can try in the comments. Next up, we have race. Any one of the groups that humans are often divided into based on physical traits regarded as common among people of shared ancestry, with a note stating, this use of race dates to the late 18th century and was for many years applied in scientific fields such as physical anthropology, with race differentiation being based on such qualities as skin color, hair form, head shape, and particular sets of cranial dimensions. Phrenology, anyone? Advances in the field of genetics in the late 20th century determined that no biological basis for races, in the sense of the word, as all humans alive today share 99.99% of their genetic material. For this reason, the concept of distinct human races today has little scientific standing and is instead understood as primarily a sociological designation, identifying a group sharing some outward physical characteristics and some commonalities of culture and history. And I think this is supremely important. I will try and identify the things this country does through the context of a we. Regardless of my physical characteristics, I spent the vast majority of my life living in the southeastern US, and for better or worse, that has been one of the largest background influences of my life, even when serving the empire and reinforcing democracy abroad. What was supposed to be a proud career of likely 20 plus years has turned into a slight shame since learning more about our past and my part in what I consider a repressive attempt at hegemony. Oh, next definition, hegemony, preponderant influence or authority over others, domination. The social, cultural, ideological, or economic influence exerted by a dominant group. If you really have an argument around this definition, we can point you in the direction of a litany of events, including backing coups of democratically elected leaders, support of commercial enterprise, and subjugating a foreign populace for financial gain and cheap labor, drug and gun pushing to not only destabilize other sovereign countries, but also our internal communities, usually based on that race thing we talked about. But let us get through the rest of this drudgery and hopefully move on to something else more positive and productive. Government. The officials comprising the governing body of a political unit and constituting the organization as an active agent. Political. Of or relating to government, a government, or the conduct of government. Politics. The art or science of, concerning, guiding, influencing, or winning and holding control over government or governmental policy. Liberalism. Oh, this is a good one. A political philosophy based on belief in progress, the essential goodness of the human race, and the autonomy of the individual, and standing for the protection of political and civil liberties. Specifically, such a philosophy that concerns the government as a crucial instrument for amelioration of social inequities, such as those involving race, gender, or class. And not last, but very important, conservatism, a disposition in politics to preserve what is established, a political philosophy based on tradition and social stability, stressing established institutions and preferring gradual development to abrupt change. Specifically, such a philosophy calling for lower taxes, limited government, regulation of business, and investing, a strong national defense, and individual financial responsibility for personal needs, such as retirement income or health care coverage. The tendency to prefer an existing or traditional situation to change. Oh, progressiveness. Oh, hey, that's the last one, progressivism. Of, relating to, or characterized by progress, making use of or interested in new ideas, finding or opportunities of, relating to, or constituting an educational theory marked by emphasis on the individual child, informality of classroom procedure, and encouragement of self-expression. One believing in moderate political change, especially social improvement by governmental action. Again, these are just a few definitions I think we should have a general footing on for civil conversation going forward. But back to me, back to me, little baby me, born to Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty. Okay, sorry, seriously. But again, production value should increase, and I haven't been to karaoke in a very long time. But I honestly don't understand the usage of Confederate names for our military bases. Seriously, didn't we fight a war against them? I mean, one of us continued on and the other one didn't, right? But anyway, I know they've since rectified most of these issues, but again, it exists in more places than you might know. It should be taught and kept in its place, museums, and in a truthful historical context. Nothing about that specific heritage should be revered. Again, context must be applied, and revere your ancestors for them as individuals. But the enslavement of people, historical or current, should instantly be labeled as abhorrent, and there is no justification, full stop. Context isn't about giving people a pass for the atrocities they've committed, but understanding that there were external factors that exist now as did any period. But those external factors don't make up for people's actions. We do things as people while we exist inside a capitalist society and have to accept some of the guilt of being a part of this empire perpetuating itself. I determine the level of guilt I feel based on the actions I take within it, surviving and fighting for something better. I also take my personal conscience and project it with as much context as I can. Back to me, but somewhat older me, has the first concrete recallable memory sometime while my father was stationed at Fort Lewis. Oh, wait, no, I think that one's changed too. No, wait, no. Fort Lewis is saying it's Joint Base Lewis McCord. That's what it is. Hopefully, growing up in liberal Washington as a child didn't incite some type of internal rage. Because in the opposite of its namesake, my family, Lewis and Clark, its way down to Fort Polk, where I would live until adulthood. Oh, wait, no, it's not Fort Polk. That one's now Fort Johnson, another Confederate loser we changed from. That I was constantly reminded of. Let's gloss over about 14 years and we get to my first stint in the Midwest. Then we go back to the South to help export and maintain democracy as they ship me over the Pacific Ocean and then across the rest of the world. But, personal reminder, I need to check with the IG and any other places associated so I don't get out of pocket talking about certain things in the future. Back stateside, and we've got more Midwestern loves. I transitioned out of the service. And another quick glossing brings us back to the South as a father of young mixed race children who loves being outside with them, cycling, padded shorts included, gaming, all things tech, learning, and hopefully figuring out how to make sure we all can prosper. In a place that at times violently shows me that it doesn't want me, I am letting it be known through that void that I don't agree with the things that we actually do from this imperial core. I can easily imagine a better way to live than this, and I assume you all can as well. There are, statistically, more intelligent people than I to tell you the specifics of how, but when you ask yourself why enough times in the context of existing poverty, homelessness, general low quality of life, and no, your argument about wealth and quality of life rising such and such levels in such and such time isn't a great one when thought about in the context of now. Our ability to grow and distribute good quality food is no longer limited by our ability to do so, only where and how we actually decide to utilize that food, and it's not feeding the hungry. The same can be said for food production. Uh, the same can be said about food production, or for production ability for housing as we do about food production. Basic utilities and healthcare are not restricted by our ability to produce them and provide them to people. They're restricted by the need for profit motive. There are inherent issues that we can easily see and correct when we aren't exhausted and distracted. I spent the last 8 to 9 years trying to become more aware of politics and our broader society. I had always imagined having a family that served my country mostly proudly and was coming out into a very different situation that I mostly didn't see degrading as I sidestepped it by serving through the early 20 teens. Now, here we are down the line, and I'm left baffled, confused, but completely unwilling to meekly accept the handover of my children to the whims of the empire. So, marker planted, I hope that whatever comes, my labors go towards reaching out and helping build something better that I think we can all be proud of. We all can prosper, and I think putting voices that out there from people who actually believe that gets us closer to a future I can be proud to leave our children. Good day.